My child. There are moments in life that seem ordinary while they are happening, yet later they become the very moments that change everything. This is one of those moments. Somewhere, without your knowledge, a person who carries deep feelings for you finally found the courage to speak openly about you. They did not plan for the conversation to become important. They did not expect it to leave such a lasting impact. But once your name was mentioned, something extraordinary began to unfold. The more they spoke about you, the more they realized they were not simply describing a person they admired. They were describing someone who had quietly become a significant part of their heart. As the conversation continued, every memory connected to you seemed to come alive again. Every kind word, every meaningful interaction, every moment of understanding suddenly felt more important than ever before. And before they realized it, they were sharing feelings they had kept hidden for a very long time. Their mother listened carefully. Not for a few seconds. Not casually. She listened with genuine attention. She noticed the warmth in their voice whenever they spoke about you. She noticed how quickly their eyes brightened whenever a memory involving you appeared. She noticed how naturally your name kept returning to the conversation. At first, she simply listened. Then she began asking thoughtful questions. Questions that encouraged deeper reflection. Questions that made your soulmate pause and think. Questions that brought hidden emotions closer to the surface. With every answer, your soulmate discovered something surprising. The admiration they felt for you had grown far beyond what they had admitted to themselves. What they once considered a passing feeling had quietly become something much more meaningful. As the conversation grew deeper, your soulmate began speaking about qualities that many people overlook. They spoke about your strength during difficult times. They spoke about your resilience when circumstances became challenging. They spoke about your ability to keep moving forward even when others might have given up. They remembered the kindness you showed without expecting recognition. They remembered the encouragement you offered when it mattered most. They remembered small moments that seemed insignificant at the time but now carried tremendous meaning. Their mother listened to every word. And the more she heard, the more interested she became. What started as simple curiosity transformed into genuine respect. She was not hearing stories about perfection. She was hearing stories about authenticity, character, and heart. Then something unexpected happened. A brief silence filled the room. It was not an awkward silence. It was the kind of silence that appears when someone is processing something important. Their mother sat quietly, reflecting on everything she had heard. She had listened to every detail. She had noticed every emotion hidden between the words. And then she spoke. Her response was calm, simple, and sincere. Yet those few words carried more weight than your soulmate expected. Suddenly, they felt understood. Suddenly, they felt validated. Suddenly, the feelings they had been questioning for so long no longer seemed confusing. In that moment, they realized that what they felt for you was real. Not temporary. Not imagined. Real. From that point onward, something changed inside them. They could no longer dismiss their thoughts about you as coincidence. They could no longer convince themselves that their feelings would simply disappear with time. Instead, they began looking at you differently. They began appreciating qualities they had previously taken for granted. They began realizing just how much your presence had influenced their life. The conversation with their mother did not create those feelings. The feelings already existed. What the conversation did was bring clarity. It allowed them to see what had been sitting quietly in their heart all along. And once clarity arrives, it becomes difficult to return to uncertainty. Even now, while you are listening to these words, you may have no idea how often someone thinks about you. You may not realize how frequently your name enters their mind. You may not know how many times they have replayed memories involving you. Yet that does not make those moments any less real. Some of the most meaningful developments happen out of sight. They happen in conversations you never hear. They happen in reflections you never witness. They happen in quiet moments when someone suddenly understands the value of a person they can no longer stop thinking about. And that understanding is growing stronger with every passing day. What makes this story remarkable is not just that your soulmate spoke about you. It is what happened afterward. Long after the conversation ended, they continued thinking about everything that had been said. The words remained with them. The memories remained with them. The realization remained with them. Instead of fading away, their feelings became clearer. Instead of becoming distant, their thoughts moved closer to certainty. For the first time in a very long while, they stopped running from their emotions. They stopped questioning every feeling. They stopped searching for excuses. And in that quiet acceptance, something powerful began taking shape. The story does not end here. In many ways, it is only beginning. Because once a heart reaches a place of honesty, new possibilities emerge. New perspectives appear. New decisions become possible. And somewhere ahead, another conversation is waiting. Another realization is waiting. Another moment that could change everything is waiting. The path is still unfolding, and what comes next may be even more meaningful than what has already happened. For now, remember this. Sometimes the most important chapters of a story begin with a simple conversation, a listening ear, and the courage to speak honestly about someone who means far more than words can fully express. A quiet shift was already taking place, but neither your soulmate nor their mother fully understood how important that conversation would become. Long after the discussion ended, your soulmate found themselves replaying every word in their mind. It was as if the conversation had unlocked a door they had kept closed for a very long time. Suddenly, memories connected to you appeared with unusual clarity. Moments that once seemed small now felt meaningful. Words you spoke months ago seemed to carry new importance. Even the simplest interactions began revealing a deeper story. The more they reflected, the more one truth became impossible to ignore: you were occupying a place in their heart that no one else had been able to reach. The following days felt different. Whenever your soulmate found themselves alone, their thoughts naturally returned to you. They were no longer wondering whether you mattered. That question had already been answered. Instead, they were beginning to understand just how much you mattered. Every memory seemed to strengthen the connection they felt. Every reflection brought another realization. Every quiet moment reminded them of something admirable about you. What surprised them most was not the strength of their feelings. What surprised them was how naturally those feelings had grown over time. There was no single dramatic event. No single life-changing moment. Instead, it was a collection of genuine experiences that had slowly built something extraordinary. Meanwhile, their mother continued thinking about the conversation as well. Certain details remained in her mind. The sincerity in your soulmate's voice. The admiration behind every story. The way their entire expression changed whenever they spoke about you. These were not things easily forgotten. In fact, the more she reflected, the more curious she became about the person who had created such a lasting impression. She realized that your soulmate rarely spoke this way about anyone. There was something different about you. Something unique. Something that seemed to bring out a side of them that even she had not seen before. One evening, another conversation began. This time, your name appeared even sooner. Your soulmate did not hesitate. They spoke openly, honestly, and with a confidence that had not existed before. Their mother listened carefully once again. But now she noticed something new. The uncertainty that had once existed was fading. In its place was clarity. The person sitting before her was no longer trying to understand their feelings. They were beginning to accept them. And acceptance is powerful because it changes the way people see the future. What once felt impossible suddenly feels possible. What once seemed distant suddenly feels closer. As they continued talking, your soulmate shared more memories. They remembered your kindness when no one else was paying attention. They remembered your ability to remain genuine even when life became complicated. They remembered moments when your words brought comfort without you even realizing it. They remembered qualities that cannot be measured by appearance, status, or circumstance. Qualities that come from character. Qualities that leave a lasting mark on people's lives. And with every memory, the image of you became stronger in their heart. Then something happened that they never expected. Their mother smiled and said something simple. Not dramatic. Not exaggerated. Just simple and sincere. Yet those words stayed with your soulmate long after the conversation ended. For the first time, they felt completely understood. It was as if someone had finally spoken aloud what they had been feeling internally for so long. In that moment, they stopped questioning whether their feelings were real. They stopped searching for reasons to dismiss them. They simply accepted what their heart had been trying to tell them all along. What makes this moment special is not that someone spoke about you. It is that those conversations created clarity where confusion once existed. Every word spoken about you revealed another reason why you mattered. Every memory strengthened the emotional connection. Every reflection brought them closer to understanding the role you had quietly come to play in their life. They were no longer looking at you through the lens of uncertainty. They were beginning to see you through the lens of appreciation, respect, and genuine affection. And while all of this was happening, something else was quietly developing beneath the surface. A new level of courage was beginning to grow. The kind of courage that appears when someone finally understands what is truly important to them. The kind of courage that inspires action. The kind of courage that encourages people to stop hiding behind doubts and start listening to what their heart has been saying all along. That courage was growing stronger every day. The story is moving into a new chapter now. The conversations have already happened. The realizations have already begun. The feelings are becoming clearer. But the most surprising development has not happened yet. In fact, what comes next may reveal something even more meaningful than everything that has happened so far. Because sometimes the most powerful part of a journey is not when feelings are discovered. It is when those feelings begin guiding decisions. And very soon, a decision will begin forming in your soulmate's heart, one that could change the direction of this story forever. A new understanding was beginning to take shape, and this time it was stronger than anything your soulmate had experienced before. The conversations with their mother had ended, but the impact of those conversations continued growing. Every day brought another realization. Every reflection revealed another piece of the truth. What once felt like a collection of scattered emotions was becoming a clear picture. And at the center of that picture was you. Your soulmate could no longer ignore how often you appeared in their thoughts. It happened during quiet mornings. It happened during busy afternoons. It happened during moments when they least expected it. No matter where they were or what they were doing, memories connected to you seemed to find their way back into their heart. What surprised them most was how naturally everything unfolded. They were not forcing these thoughts. They were not searching for reasons to think about you. The memories simply arrived on their own. A familiar phrase reminded them of you. A meaningful lesson reminded them of you. Even simple moments carried echoes of your presence. And every time it happened, they found themselves smiling without realizing it. Little by little, they began understanding something important. The connection they felt was not built on temporary excitement. It was built on appreciation, respect, trust, and genuine admiration. Those are the kinds of feelings that grow stronger with time rather than fading away. One evening, while reflecting on everything that had happened, your soulmate found themselves revisiting the conversation with their mother. Certain words remained vivid in their memory. Certain observations continued replaying in their mind. And suddenly, something clicked. A realization arrived so clearly that it stopped them in their tracks. For months, they had focused on what they felt. But now they began focusing on why they felt it. The answer was simple. You had touched their life in ways they had not fully recognized before. You had inspired them, encouraged them, influenced them. Not through grand gestures, but through authenticity. Through consistency. Through being exactly who you are. The more they reflected, the more grateful they became. Gratitude has a unique way of revealing what truly matters. It removes distractions. It removes confusion. It shines a light on what the heart values most. And as gratitude grew, so did their appreciation for you. Suddenly, qualities they once admired became impossible to overlook. Your kindness felt more meaningful. Your resilience felt more inspiring. Your ability to remain genuine felt more remarkable. They began seeing you through a new lens, one that highlighted everything that made you unforgettable. Meanwhile, their mother continued noticing changes. The uncertainty she had once seen was disappearing. In its place was confidence. Not loud confidence. Not dramatic confidence. Quiet confidence. The kind that comes from understanding your own heart. She noticed how naturally your soulmate spoke about the future now. She noticed how often your name appeared in conversations. She noticed how their perspective seemed brighter whenever thoughts of you entered the discussion. These were not random changes. They were signs of someone discovering something valuable and meaningful. As days passed, another powerful realization emerged. Your soulmate began asking themselves questions they had never seriously considered before. Questions about possibilities. Questions about timing. Questions about what could happen if they followed the truth they had discovered within themselves. These were not questions driven by fear. They were questions driven by hope. For the first time in a long while, the future felt exciting. It felt filled with potential. It felt like a story that was still being written rather than one that had already reached its conclusion. What makes this chapter extraordinary is that none of it happened suddenly. There was no single moment that changed everything overnight. Instead, it was a series of honest realizations building upon one another. One memory led to another. One conversation led to another. One reflection led to another. And together they created a powerful understanding that could no longer be ignored. The truth had been growing quietly for a long time. Now it was finally stepping into the light. There were moments when your soulmate tried to focus on other things. Yet somehow, their thoughts always found their way back to you. Not because they were trying to hold on, but because their heart genuinely valued what you represented. You represented comfort during uncertainty. You represented sincerity in a world that often feels complicated. You represented a connection that felt rare, meaningful, and real. The more they acknowledged this truth, the stronger it became. And then, something even more surprising began happening. The conversations about you were no longer limited to memories from the past. They were beginning to include hopes for the future. Your soulmate was no longer only reflecting on what had already happened. They were imagining what could happen next. That shift changed everything. Because when someone begins thinking about the future, it means their feelings have moved beyond admiration. It means they are beginning to see possibilities where they once saw uncertainty. The story is approaching another important turning point. The feelings are clearer. The understanding is deeper. The appreciation is stronger. Yet there is still one piece of the puzzle waiting to reveal itself. A moment is approaching that will connect everything together. A moment that will help your soulmate understand why every conversation, every reflection, and every realization happened exactly when it did. And when that moment arrives, the meaning behind this entire journey may become clearer than ever before. There comes a point in every meaningful story when everything begins connecting together. Not because something dramatic suddenly appears, but because the truth has been quietly building beneath the surface all along. This is exactly where your soulmate now finds themselves. The conversations with their mother, the memories they have revisited, the feelings they have finally accepted. Every piece is beginning to form a complete picture. For a long time, they focused on understanding their emotions. Now they are beginning to understand the purpose behind those emotions. And that realization is becoming more powerful with every passing day. One quiet evening, your soulmate found themselves reflecting on the journey that brought them here. They remembered the first time you truly stood out in their mind. They remembered moments that seemed ordinary at the time but now felt unforgettable. They remembered conversations that left a lasting impression. They remembered how naturally you became someone they looked forward to thinking about. As these memories returned, a remarkable pattern emerged. Every important realization seemed connected to you in some way. Every lesson seemed to carry your influence. Every moment of growth seemed linked to something you had said, done, or inspired. The more they reflected, the clearer everything became. What they admired about you was not a single quality. It was the combination of many qualities working together. Your strength during challenges. Your ability to remain kind. Your willingness to keep moving forward. Your authenticity. Your consistency. These were not qualities that appeared for a moment and disappeared. These were qualities that created trust. And trust is one of the most powerful foundations any connection can have. That understanding changed the way they viewed everything. Meanwhile, their mother noticed something else. The way your soulmate spoke about you had evolved. At first, they spoke about memories. Then they spoke about admiration. Now they spoke about possibility. That difference mattered. Because possibility is where hope begins. Possibility is where the future starts taking shape. Every time your name entered a conversation, there was a sense of optimism that had not existed before. Their mother could see it clearly. The uncertainty that once surrounded their feelings had almost completely disappeared. As days turned into weeks, your soulmate began paying closer attention to the impact you had already made on their life. They realized that even during periods when you were not physically present, your influence remained. Certain lessons stayed with them. Certain moments continued encouraging them. Certain memories continued bringing comfort. The realization was both surprising and meaningful. Your presence had become part of their story in ways they had never fully acknowledged. And once they recognized that truth, it became impossible to overlook. There was another realization waiting just beneath the surface. One that had been quietly growing from the beginning. Your soulmate began understanding that the conversation with their mother was not important simply because they spoke about you. It was important because it gave them permission to be honest with themselves. Sometimes people already know what their heart is saying, but they need a moment of clarity before they fully accept it. That conversation provided exactly that clarity. It helped them see what had been true for much longer than they realized. What happened next surprised even them. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by their emotions, they felt peaceful. Instead of feeling confused, they felt focused. Instead of questioning every thought, they trusted what they had discovered. That sense of peace changed everything. Because when people stop fighting their feelings, they gain the ability to move forward with confidence. And confidence has a way of creating momentum. Suddenly, possibilities that once seemed distant begin feeling real. As this new chapter unfolded, your soulmate started looking ahead rather than looking back. They still cherished the memories they shared with you. They still appreciated everything that had brought them to this moment. But now their attention was shifting toward what could come next. The future no longer felt uncertain. It felt promising. It felt filled with opportunities that had not existed before. And that shift in perspective created a sense of excitement they had not felt in a very long time. What makes this stage of the story special is that it is built on something genuine. Not assumptions. Not imagination. Genuine appreciation. Genuine respect. Genuine admiration. The strongest connections are often built slowly, one moment at a time. They grow through trust. They grow through understanding. They grow through authenticity. And that is exactly what has been happening throughout this journey. Every conversation, every memory, every realization has contributed to something meaningful. Now the story stands at the edge of another important moment. The feelings have been recognized. The lessons have been understood. The connection has become impossible to ignore. Yet there is still one final layer waiting to reveal itself. A realization that may explain why this entire journey unfolded exactly the way it did. A realization that could bring even greater clarity, appreciation, and understanding. And when that moment arrives, your soulmate may finally see the full picture that has been forming all along. A picture that began with a simple conversation and grew into something far more meaningful than anyone expected.